There's something we almost never ask about powerful people, not how they got there, but when everyone else stopped paying attention, because that's usually when it happens. This is a story about a man who understood something most people never figure out. That the loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful one. If you had walked into the regional offices of Meridian Financial Group in the spring of 2003, and someone had asked you to point out the most important person in the building, you would have been wrong. You would have pointed to Marcus Webb, the VP of Operations, the one with the glass office, the loud laugh, the kind of presence that filled space without asking permission. Or maybe you would have pointed to Sandra Yee, Director of Strategy, ambitious, precise, the kind of person who sent emails at midnight and was always walking somewhere with urgency. But Daniel Cole? Daniel Cole was just there. 11 years in the same building. Early every morning. Late every evening. No high-profile projects. No dramatic presentations. No networking at Thursday drinks. A colleague once admitted, with embarrassment, that she wasn't sure whether Daniel worked in legal or accounting. She had simply never needed to think about him. But here's the thing about people who go unnoticed. Sometimes, they go unnoticed on purpose. To understand what Daniel was doing, you have to understand what he was not doing. And why. Around year 3 at Meridian, Daniel figured something out. Information is power. But access to information, that's something else entirely. Most people build influence by broadcasting. They present. They attach their names to things. They ensure visibility. Daniel did the opposite. He listened. Quietly. Consistently. Almost invisibly. He built something over 11 years that no one had quite mapped. Not friendships. Something more durable. Trust. The unglamorous kind. The kind built through reliability, not charisma. He fixed problems before they became visible. Quietly. He caught a calculation error in a quarterly report that would have embarrassed the CFO in front of the board. He didn't announce it. He left a corrected version on the desk with a short note. No credit. No performance. The CFO remembered. And here is the part most people miss. Daniel wasn't performing modesty. He genuinely didn't need recognition. And freedom from needing to be seen is one of the rarest forms of power. Because when you stop chasing the spotlight, you start seeing everything that happens in the shadows. And the strange part is this. The people who trusted Daniel the most were the ones who never talked about him. In 2006, Meridian hit a wall. Aggressive expansion strategies that had once been applauded began to unravel. Real estate exposure. Optimistic lending targets. Numbers that had once inspired celebration now felt unstable. Marcus Webb had been the face of those decisions. Now his door stayed closed. Sandra Yee had written the white paper that justified the expansion. Now that same document circulated in a different tone. And Daniel Cole? 18 months earlier he had flagged the exposure risk. In a quarterly memo few had read fully. He hadn't raised an alarm. He had written calmly. Recommend stress testing assumptions in Section 4 before Q3 projections are finalized. 3 pages of analysis. Sent to 3 people. One forwarded it to the CFO. The CFO passed it to Marcus with a question mark. Marcus replied, "We're fine." They were not fine. And the problem with confidence is this. Feels exactly like certainty. Until reality arrives. When the board convened to assess the damage, the chairman asked a quiet question. Who wrote the risk memo last year? The answer was simple. Daniel Cole. And that was the moment. Not dramatic, not loud. When everything shifted. Daniel did not become famous. There was no speech. No celebration. Within 8 months, a new risk oversight role was created. It reported directly to the board. Daniel was placed in it. He asked for 2 things. Direct access to operational data across all divisions. And a small team of 3 analysts. He got both. Marcus Webb left the following spring. Sandra Yee transferred quietly. The visible architecture of leadership dissolved. What replaced it wasn't loud either. It was steady. People later described the shift differently. Some called it slow. Some called it cautious. Some called it boring. But many called it honest. And here is where we slow down. Daniel was not passive. He was not shy. He was not waiting to be noticed. He had simply decided what mattered. And that decision freed him from a trap. The trap is this. Most people spend enormous energy managing how they appear, rather than what they build. That gap between appearance and substance is where institutions begin to fail. There's a concept in geology called deep erosion. Water doesn't crash dramatically over stone. It seeps through cracks, slowly, invisibly. Years later, the landscape is different. No one remembers the moment it changed. Daniel was like that. He reshaped Meridian not through force, but through consistency. We live in a world that rewards noise, because noise is visible, and systems respond to visibility. The confident subject line, the commanding presenter, the person who speaks first. We promote them. We follow them. We quote them. And in doing so, we slowly lose the ability to see the people who do none of that. Not because they lack power, but because we've stopped looking for it in the right places. Once, an analyst asked Daniel what he'd learned about institutions. He thought for a moment, then said, "The most important conversations never happen in the meetings. They happen in the 5 minutes before and the 5 minutes after. Pay attention to those." Most people leave the room. Daniel always stayed. We tell ourselves we're good at recognizing talent, that the best people rise, that systems reward merit. We need to believe that, because the alternative is uncomfortable. The alternative is that the most capable person in the room is often the one we overlook. That clarity was written in memos no one read. That stability was built by someone who never asked for applause. Daniel retired in 2019. No rented venue. No video tribute. A small lunch. A brief email. That was enough. And the institution he left behind was more stable. More resilient. Not dramatically, but durably. The real question isn't about Daniel. He understood his role long ago. The question is about us. About who we choose to notice. About what we mistake for strength. And about the quiet people in our lives. The ones writing careful memos. Asking precise questions. Seeing risks before they arrive. Who will only be recognized if we learn to look differently. Real power rarely announces itself. It accumulates, silently. And by the time you notice it, it's already too late.